Hey, quick question. If you saw two Reinhardts shielding in front of each other, would you call that hero overpowered because neither of them are doing meaningful damage to each other? Whatever your answer to that question was will matter and be important for the end of the video. Recently, I've started to feel bad for the Overwatch balance team. And not because their job is hard or anything, but because when they release a new hero to Overwatch, they mentally have to prepare for countless opinions that are somehow uneducated, yet said so confidently. But then to rub salt in the wound, they gotta grit their teeth and appease the objectively wrong gamers. Now, with the introductions of hero perks, I've decided to make this video, because I'll give credit where it's due. Perks proved that the devs have a deeper understanding of their hero roster than most, including myself, assumed. Side note that makes these 3 videos even more relevant. I think we should start light with a quick history lesson.
If you're Lucio, you just sit on the point and press E.
Okay, Blizzard!
For those who may not know, there was a time back in Overwatch 1 where playing Widowmaker on attack would get you reported, flamed, and a nice little surprise in your mailbox. Not angry at Widowmaker herself, but simply the idea of her on the attacking side of a game mode was enough to warrant such reactions. So what did Blizzard do to turn Widow from a throw pick into your sleep paralysis demon? Nothing. In fact, the only reason I'm using Widow as the first example is because we all recently got a look into the past with Overwatch Classic, and yeah, Widow was just as strong as she is now. Even with the tweaks to her numbers that she got over the years like everyone else. No rework, nothing. What changed was the player. Given enough time to understand the character and the kit, the Overwatch community made a historic moment that people rather not acknowledge. I could celebrate the concept of a hero finally getting their time in the sun like many others did, or I could look a little further into the situation and talk about the one thing Overwatch players fear the most. Accountability. People willing to put their hand up and say that they simply were not informed well enough when yelling their opinions.
Oh, that's good, bro. Do you have something against people with mental disabilities?
GG.
When Lifeweaver came out, I made a video talking about supports and what direction they are heading in. I made a point to explain that Lifeweaver is strong but not overpowered, and quite a lot of people actually disagreed and felt like this hero was unimpactful and weak. Everyone cried to either rework his kit or buff him drastically. The story does kinda start off similar to Widowmaker's. I was extremely annoyed by this, because when played right, Lifeweaver was a hero with insane healing potential and utility. And the reason I was annoyed with people's ignorance was because Blizzard was different. They became reactionary, accommodating, willing to change something they knew they shouldn't just to keep the uninformed happy. You know, I've made fun of the Overwatch team's balance schedule before, mocking how boring it is to wait for a mid-season patch to change anything, but there was a silver lining to that. If a new hero was to come out and people didn't understand their kit, they would have to wait for that mid-season patch, giving the player ample opportunity to understand how to actually play the new hero. Slowly people started to see what I was talking about, all the little things that make a hero unique. His range, line of sight, burst healing that tracks through any object to always hit its target, great survivability, an interactive ult used in more ways than just one. Life Grip was stronger from a distance. It didn't cleanse like Zuzu, but because of the long-range LOS, you would grip your teammates, giving them many iframes and taking them out of harm's way. It gave the ability an identity, not being compared to Zuzu anymore. And then my fear came true, something I saw coming a mile away. By the time people understood how to use this hero, getting healthy healing stats, impactful plays, and truly making this hero become his own, your demands came true. The buffs you claimed he needed are now here to save the day, right? All of a sudden, Lifeweaver went from being a complex hero that takes time to understand into an unkillable heal bot with an overbearing ult, healthy healing numbers becoming absurd. It was the hero I didn't want, the hero I said we needed to avoid, and the hero Blizzard knew he would become, but had to create for you. Well, who cares? There is always next time. If we think something is overpowered, surely we will take the time to understand the hero and their weaknesses before complaining. Sound the alarms, bad news, Mauga has been released and is absolutely killing the game. Bro was rivaling Overwatch 2's longevity before Marvel was. I know, good wordplay. An Overwatch Pro player set up a scenario where he was playing as Bastion with a nano boost and a mercy pocket. He would attempt to kill a Mauga who was simply using his cardiac overdrive with Baptiste healing. The result was a very close victory for the Bastion. Now, who in their right goddamn mind would possibly argue that this was a balanced hero? You know why they call me Shalissa, right? You know when Soldier 76 kills someone with his rockets, he sometimes says, "Death Spiral." Well, the Death Spiral is in reference to multiple variables having unique domino effects on each other, resulting in a catastrophic climax. Or maybe it's because his rocket spiral when shut up, it doesn't matter. Mauga was a victim of straight up stupidity. It's about to get real wordy, so try and follow along. To identify where this all went wrong, we gotta figure out Mauga's best tank matchup. Basically, Mauga E good, but only if do damage. Who can Mauga consistently damage when using his cardiac overdrive? So obviously we rule out Xar, D.Va, Sig, Rein. Orisa can spin to block his damage, but also Javelin to stop him for a moment. You also got to consider that simply stopping Mauga from shooting would mean he would have to spend his precious cardiac overdrive time winding up his guns. Doom can do the same with his punch, but more importantly, he's not really a good tank for Mauga to face tank because why would Doom be brawling a Mauga? Ball and Monkey are in the same boat. Junker Queen is decent, but also a smaller target out of all the tanks. Ramattra at worst can block his healing with his shield, or block it with block. Roadhog is a good target for Mauga, but that doesn't mean Roadhog is helpless against him. In fact, saving your hook for Mauga at a distance can practically run out his entire ability or give it little sustained value. Like I said though, overall this matchup is better for Mauga by a long shot. But is there a single tank that can give Mauga 100% of his value from his overdrive? The thing that made him so broken. A character who couldn't interrupt Mauga's E without dying. A character so big all of his shots would hit even from a distance. A character with enough survivability of their own to fully bring out Mauga's survivability, with not even the slightest chance of outplaying him like a good Roadhog could even do. It's Mauga. Mauga's best matchup is Mauga. Picture this. The new hero is finally released and everyone is playing Mauga. But as you know, Mauga's mirror matchup is his best matchup for survivability. So everyone noticed soon that Mauga isn't dying. Now remember the clips you would all see, Mauga 1v1s staring at each other? When those clips became popular, people's opinions became wrong. Just play Mauga and not die. But he's only not dying because everyone is playing his best matchup. The matchup you're telling everyone to play. It was a death spiral. An infinite loop that mocked the uninformed. Because not soon after, Mauga would be nuked, practically dropped off the top 500 ranked leaderboards. Many people would say he's useless, gutted, and has no place in Overwatch 2. Wouldn't this prove me wrong? Everyone said Mauga is OP, he's at the top of the leaderboards, gets nerfed, isn't on the leaderboards as much. Well, in this very season that Mauga was nuked and considered a horrible pick, I got my highest rank ever. What was the difference between me and hundreds of thousands of people? Y'all dumb as hell. See, the reason I got to such a high rank in his supposedly nuked state is because he wasn't actually any weaker. In fact, here is a recent clip of me looking lovingly into another Mauga's eyes. It's practically the same as when he first released. What changed yet again was the players. See, that Mauga nerf encouraged people to do one very important thing. Not force his best matchup. D.Va, Sigma, Zarya, absolutely obvious no-brainer picks were encouraged simply because everyone was saying Mauga is nuked and bad, not realizing it wasn't due to the nerf, but because people stopped forcing his best matchup. This update didn't kill Mauga, it broke the death spiral. People's eyes began to open and they realized they only got to deal with one thing. All of a sudden Mauga wasn't broken, he was simple to kill. History repeated itself once again. I'm gonna say something that the Overwatch team probably wishes they could say every single time a developer blog releases. When you see or hear the phrase something on the lines of, Mauga was performing better than expected, they aren't referring to the hero himself, they're referring to you. They expected you to perform better, not to force Mauga's best matchup and call him broken. They expected you to understand his very obvious weaknesses, and this so-called nuke of a nerf proves that. It didn't actually do anything, people just realized the options that were already available. It's why he was so strong on launch. They expected you guys to, quite frankly, back up all the barking you do. Apparently we, as the community, know best. But we couldn't even identify and figure out the most simple puzzle. Instead, we needed help from the big dumb idiots at the Overwatch team that apparently know nothing.